is there a thing such as being too sensitive? And what's the fine line between me being too sensitive versus, other people being actually too mean? Well, we have to see that sometimes we see people in the world who have thick skin. Sometimes we see people with very sensitive reactions to things. For example, your mama jokes, right? Some people love these types of jokes. Some people like really these like edgy jokes, and they think it's funny. But now, some people find those jokes to be very abrasive and not really funny at all, right? So this means that it's the same joke, but different people can perceive it differently. That tells us that the joke itself, there really aren't that big like inherent qualities about this is actually offensive versus this is not. Because why? No matter what the joke is, there's always a chance, right? Someone may perceive it good, someone may perceive it well. Okay, so this tells us sensitivity is largely an individual thing. But now, that sensitivity, is it static? No, because the sensitivity is there for a reason that's related to how you learn to perceive and recognize ideas and concepts in your head, right? So, your mama jokes. If had a really wonderful relationship with your mother, and then she recently passed away, and then you hear your mama joke, you probably can't really take it that well. It's very likely that you can't, because why? Your upbringing and your experiences with your mother, coupled with the fact that you have recently lost her to a very painful death, then it's very hard to receive it in like the same capacity as someone who's used to taking like edgy jokes. So for those people with like a thick skin, then how do they have it? Well, chances are, like, many contributing factors exist, but chances are maybe they grew up in like a jokester kind of an environment, or maybe they are feeling actually hurt inside, but they grew up in an environment where they became ostracized and made fun of whenever they showed signs of sensitivity, so they learned how to like mask it, toxic behaviors, right? So depending on your life and depending on your circumstances, you will have more or less tender spots in your heart, and that is up to your interpretation. Okay, so over time, right? Over time, those sensitivities change because you do get over some things. For example, like the loss of a pet, or like a painful breakup, or like a friend backstabbing you, and changing relationship with your extended family, and you're leaving your job. These life events definitely happen, and when they hit initially, it can be like you have a one interpretation of that event. But then with time, as you talk to more people and then you kind of resolve your misunderstandings, if there were any, then you kind of like, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal. And then your sensitivity around it more or less changes, right? Or you grow older and you realize like, that belief, it doesn't really apply to my life anymore. Okay, so this tells you that sensitivity, while it is informed by your past, it's not this static thing and it can always change. Okay, and so if you take that to the extreme, then Buddhism says, in your life, as long as you apply this concept to yourself, there's nothing really to be angry about. There's nothing to be really upset about. There's nothing really to be offended about. And that is a very kind of a hardcore policy, right? But it's because in Buddhism, we believe that there's no inherent reason to suffer. It's always perspective, and it's always in reference to something that we get the idea that this is worthy of suffering. But there's no inherent quality in this that makes it worthy of suffering, right? But the thing is, this only applies to your life when you apply it to yourself. So, Billy is a guy who operates under that principle. So, back like a few years ago when people wrote me, YouTube comments or like Instagram comments that, annoyed me, that I would be really pissed off, right? I would block them, and then I would get really angry and just like, try to curse them out, or like, create alt accounts and, downvote them. I did all those things. But then now I've just let go of a lot of those, and I'm like, yeah, I guess you could see it from that perspective. And so like, oh yeah, I guess like if you have your life, saying those things are pretty much warranted, and I understand that. But I can't enforce this viewpoint to other people. So if someone is offended by what I say, I can't be like, just relax, man. Buddha said there's no inherent reason to suffer. Because why? It's their life. They need to take that possibility in order for them to not suffer. So the reason why I'm making this YouTube video is, if you are suffering in your life because you feel like you're so sensitive, everything that anyone says just gets to you so easily, it's not an easy life to live. And if you're looking for a way to develop thicker skin, then looking into the ideas around Buddhism and how everything is up to perspective, that perspective may be something you can consider in your life to understand, oh, there's no real thing to be sensitive about, so there's no real need to be growing thick skins around anything, because everything just kind of is. So, will you reach this state in like an instant? Maybe. I'm not precluding any possibilities, but there's always a chance that you can make like ladder small steps towards this kind of understanding, and each step of the way, your suffering will reduce one step at a time. And hey, I think even that is meaningful. If you suffer for 100 reasons and tomorrow you suffer because of 99, I'd say that's a big improvement. And so that is how I view sensitivity. And if you are the one feeling this, and you're not trying to convince other people to do it, like, hey man, don't be sensitive, this life coach guy says, this is not that kind of video. It's for your education purposes.